So it seems we have a new spat going on in the world. This is between Qatar and Europe. And what does Elon Musk have to say about this stuff? I want to jump right in and show you guys what I'm looking at today. It says here, Qatar will stop EU gas sales if fined under due diligence law. And right now, I'm sure you guys know, for those friends watching in Europe, energy prices are very, very high. I also know you rely on gas from Russia, and what's going to happen if Qatar cuts off the supply. This is not a good situation for Europe. I'm sure you guys know this, and that's the ultimate question you always have to ask yourself: how do you balance this stuff out? Be it your business dealings, who you're doing business with, like where does this energy come from, and how do you keep up with essentially your morals? Why do I mention morals? Because this is actually directly related to why they have a problem with Qatar. Talking about the EU. It says, according to this, Qatar has threatened to stop vital gas shipments to the EU if member states strictly enforce new legislation that will penalize companies which fail to meet set criteria. And these are the things: carbon emissions and human and labor rights, right? So essentially, how are we thinking about the environment going to the future, and how are we thinking about treating people? Qatar's just like, screw you, we do what you want, we do what we want, and if you don't accept our way of business, we're not going to do business with you. This was the actual quote from Qatar. It says here, if the case is that I lose 5% of my generated revenue by going to Europe, I will not go to Europe. I am not bluffing. 5% of generated revenue of Qatar Energy means 5% of generated revenue of the Qatar state. This is the people's money, so I cannot lose that kind of money, and nobody will accept losing that kind of money. So that's the question. If EU is going to hey, we got these strict rules, we're going to fine you, etc. And Qatar's like, fine, we're just going to cut off the energy. Will the EU just live with that? And essentially, I guess you're going to be less supply, so prices may go up. I just want to be curious your guys' point of view on this, friends in Europe. This also relates to the Musk situation. We talk a lot about Tesla on this channel. You guys, in my last video, I said, hey, you notice that Musk never criticizes China. We've also talked about how Musk has been, what word to say it? We could say accommodative to Russia. He regularly talks to Putin. Could there be a deal in place with Musk and Putin with the Ukraine thing? And why am I mentioning Ukraine? Well, let me take you back in time a little bit. So this is back in 2022. This is what Musk, this was the headline: lithium refining is licensed to print money. That's coming from Elon Musk talking about lithium. And this was the actual quote. It says, I'd like to once again urge entrepreneurs to enter the lithium refining business. And remember, guys, he needs lithium to make batteries for his cars and robots and stuff like that. Says the mining is relatively easy. The refining is much harder. And he says you can't lose. It's a license to print money. And that's talking about lithium. Now, you guys may or may not know this, but Ukraine has a bunch of lithium. I think it's the largest supply in Europe. There was an older article from a couple years ago. I'll read the headlines to you guys. Before invasion, Ukraine's lithium wealth was drawing global attention, and I guess Chinese and Australian investors were looking to get in on that piece of the pie. And this is something that, in my opinion, we'll see how this ends up playing out when Trump takes office, or him and President Musk. Will there be some sort of deal in place to just basically hand over Ukraine to Russia, right? And then try to get some of that sweet, sweet lithium. They're referring to this, actually, I thought it was kind of interesting, as white gold. This was the article just a couple days ago. White gold seen as pivotal to Europe's massive trade with South America. And I just want you guys to see how all of these money interests are involved. Obviously, energy is big money. Who doesn't know that? And there's always been some interesting discussion. Oftentimes we refer to Musk as being the richest person in the world, but what if it's not Musk? What if it's Putin? What if it's the Prince of Saudi? It certainly could be. They don't disclose how much money they have, but I'm sure they're not poor. So there's that. The other thing that Musk has been doing recently, and I'm just wanting to show you guys to connect the dots for you. This stuff is about money. Musk does care about the stuff. It's funny because sometimes people always say, "Oh, Musk doesn't care about money. He just wants to make the world a better place." I mean, if that were true, he wouldn't be a billionaire. He would just give all his money away, right? But clearly he cares about money. On back in May, but this is when he first started courting Milei, that's the president of Argentina, and he says here, I recommend investing in Argentina. What do you think Argentina has? Any guesses? Any guesses out there? You've got it. Of course, it is lithium. I think they refer to it as like the lithium triangle or something like that. That's in South America. But yeah, Argentina's got a bunch of lithium too. So I'm sure there's some sort of deal in place. And it's funny because then Elon Musk is kissing up to Milei and compliment Argentina all the time. Farzad, which is the Tesla stock promoter king, he's always commenting how awesome Argentina is and stuff. I mean, can you make this stuff any more obvious? But I'm just showing you guys this stuff in case you've never looked at these things before. That there is money involved with these things, and Tesla does care about money. Make no mistake. This is actually an interesting thing as well. This is just a couple days ago. I guess Tesla's working on the refinery thing in Texas at the moment. And this was the quote for this. This is a lithium refinery. I guess they're building down there. I'll read the quote. It says, according to Reuters reports, China is responsible for 2/3 of the world's lithium chemical output. So you got that, right? Also, we're talking about Tesla in Texas. I guess this thing might be damaging to the environment. It was saying here, traditional lithium refining is water and energy intensive, requires powerful acids, and creates hazardous byproducts. But Tesla says the refining process it's developed for the Robstown site is less harmful to the environment. Um, I'll let you guys be the judge of that, whether or not it's less harmful. It doesn't mean it's not harmful. They're just claiming less harmful. Trump recently said a thing too that he wants to pass if you're giving a bunch of money to America, which would fit Elon Musk companies, then he'll give you breaks on environmental protection laws basically. So the idea is we got to unlock America, forget about the environment, and drill baby drill or whatever. So according to Tesla, I'll just read it what they say, and this will be the curious thing is how clean is it actually. But it does say Tesla's process involves mixing table salt instead of acids with the spodumene concentrate. It is mixed with water and agitated at high temperatures to create a lithium-rich slurry. It's then filtered and purified to eventually produce lithium hydroxide, a key ingredient for batteries. I just wanted to read a little process. Every now and then, we have members of the community who are chemical engineers, stuff like that. I'd love to hear your comments. I've read other stuff about this thing before regarding Tesla and their care for the environment. There was a report recently that the Austin plant was poisoning Austin's water, and that was just a few weeks ago. Or that they would tell employees to basically set the machines to fool the what do I call it, the investigators when they come in. Or regular is a better way to say it, from like the EPA and that kind of stuff. And then after they leave, then they reset it. And then there were whistleblowers at Tesla that came out and recently said that was our practice is basically to lie to regulators. So this kind of stuff, whether or not you can process or refine, I guess the right word, a lithium cleanly. I do not claim to be an expert in chemical engineering and this kind of stuff, so I'll leave that to members of the community that have any thoughts on that. But my understanding is with Tesla the environment is they all claim that they're recycling batteries, but it is a little bit of cop out, because what you can do as a company like Tesla, you can say, oh yes, we're totally recycling, but what that means is we're giving the batteries to another company, right? So Tesla's claiming they're recycling everything, but they're giving it to another battery company, and then that recycling company may or may not be recycling fully everything. And I guess also the way that Tesla builds their batteries, they use this like adhesive, which is really bad for the environment. So there are lots of different ways you can do these things. Tesla's been known to cut corners, and I don't think environment is that important to them. And if you're talking about, this is all in Texas, which has very, very loose regulations. And people made jokes before when I mentioned this stuff to where if you're breaking laws in Texas, it must be really, really bad. So I just mentioned the Musk stuff because it does relate to the Qatar stuff. And, how's it relate? Remember, EU is saying, hey, Qatar, if you're not going to go by the rules, we're going to, fine you, etc. And then Qatar's like, well, we're not going to take fines. We're just going to cut off, all energy to you. And that's ultimately what we have to face as a like you could say, as a species, as a culture, as people, however you want to say. What are the trade-offs that we're going to have, like in terms of where we get our power from? Is it ethically sourced or not? Diamonds is a good example. It's not energy, but just I saw that movie Blood Diamond. I'm sure you guys saw it as well, and that was a really interesting perspective, especially if you didn't, because I didn't know much about that stuff before, and now I totally know, right? And then I see the whole family, the Boer family, as being totally corrupt. Totally see that, and I think unfortunately a lot of these, precious materials in the world is controlled by just a few hands and a few families, and who doesn't know this stuff? But I just point it out to you guys because I think it does matter. And ultimately, we got to figure out, okay, how can we break free of that kind of world? Because it seems to be going more and more that direction. The way with President Musk, and now pulling the puppet strings behind Trump. I'm just putting all the pieces together and just airing my thoughts out to you guys about this stuff. And I want to hear your thoughts, right? What world do we want to enter into? I feel like, say, the BRICS countries, right, that they're going to be going to their route to where they want that increased divide of the rich and poor, and I think the U.S. is not far behind, sadly. Guys, I can tell you, I used to live in China. I also lived in Vietnam, and there's massive divide between rich and poor there. There's massive, massive, massive corruption. I'm talking about Vietnam and China at the very top. That's just how those countries are run, and it's not something you want. I promise you, it's not something you want at all. And unfortunately, that's where the U.S. is going, where someone like a Musk can basically run the show, buy off whoever he wants to buy off. And in your daily lives, this will affect you, especially if you live in Texas or wherever, or poisoning environment for profit. So I'm a big believer in environment. That was a big thing of my generation, Generation X. I don't know about younger generations. I just don't know with the millennials if they care about the environment or not, if that's an issue. Clearly, it's an issue in Europe that's on their list. Or what about human rights, right? Do we care about the way they treat people in factories, etc.? Again, I'm Gen X. When I was a kid, I remember the big issue was sweatshops for college gear, and if you guys are old enough, you'll probably remember that used to be a big issue. Do college kids, today, young kids, do they ever talk about that kind of stuff? Hey, we want to ethically source our labor, etc. Um, my opinion is, I think for the average person, they just want cheap goods and they want cheap energy, regardless of where it comes from. And there's always a bit of hypocrisy with that. You guys know this stuff, say with the war in Europe, where your main adversary is Russia, yet you're still buying energy from them. It's pretty ridiculous, the whole thing. And hopefully this is something that which I remember when Musk was first, when I first heard about him, I was like, hey, alternative energy, maybe he'll end up being the solar guy or whatever. Obviously, the solar stuff is all a scam, but, I do think there is ways out of this world to where we're, relying on just a few, how do you want to say, authoritarian type countries to get the stuff that we need. And hopefully we can develop technologies to do that, so we don't necessarily have to be doing these kind of business dealings or whatever. So anyway, I just wanted to share these thoughts and want to get your thoughts on this stuff. Do appreciate your time, everyone, and catch you in the next video.